Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point, where we go in depth on local issues that matter to all of us. So tonight's main point: money for youth services is on the ballot in Sacramento this November, and voters will decide whether to create a Sacramento Children's Fund. If passed, part of the city's annual budget will be set aside to pay for youth services like after-school programs. So we'll get to those details in just a moment, but we wanted to go beyond the ballot and beyond the budget and go directly to the boots on the ground. So what do youth services look like in action? All politics aside, Becca Habegger has been following youth programs over the course of the past year and brings us this look at what they actually do.
We are packing up bags for our home visits today so we can go visit some of our Sacramento teens and drop stuff off for them.
Paris Dye leads Impact SAC, a local nonprofit that supports and empowers youth. Housed in office space donated by Guide Real Estate in Sacramento's Ice Blocks district, Impact SAC is preparing this day for a prize patrol.
Coffee mugs for Check Your Vibe, which is our mental resilience campaign.
You look cute. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Prize Patrol started during the pandemic. Young people couldn't get together in person, so Impact SAC hosted virtual group events and then made individual visits, giving prizes while doing mental health check-ins.
It made me very happy that they came and see me and did all this for me.
How are you mentally? How's your mental health right now? Good. Yeah.
Program Director Veronica Bullis says Impact SAC offers services like mentoring and tutoring with the goal of helping students succeed and stay safe. A grant from the City of Sacramento's Office of Violence Prevention helped make that possible.
We were granted $250,000 to do this work and to reach youth in the city of Sacramento, especially those who are gang involved and who need more support than others.
Back in March, Impact SAC brought teens from all over the city to Golden One Center, where they got a good view of the Kings game, followed by a group photo on the court.
It's important because it lets people know that they're valuable, and that we deserve these seats too, and that they're obtainable, that kids can have them. Young people can sit in good seats. It's not about just getting in the Kings games, it's about experiencing it and having a memory.
1, 2, 3, the next day and across town, two different youth organizations teamed up to host a March Madness youth basketball tournament at Dr. Ephraim Williams Family Life Center in Oak Park.
What we wanted to do was gather youth from different neighborhoods and provide them with an opportunity to just come and have clean fun.
Jadida Gomes is with the Greater Sacramento Urban League, one of the community organizations that partner with the Black Child Legacy Campaign. Kenneth Duncan is founder and CEO of Ball Out Academy, which offers mentoring and free basketball programs to young people in the Sacramento area.
We want to provide safe space for kids a few times a week to keep them off the streets, help them with their academics, but really it's about mentorship because I know how important that is. Say your father's not in your life or your father's working a full-time job. It takes all those different coaches and mentors to help build up our youth to be successful.
High schooler Irving Cook says that mentorship is important to young people.
It's important because, so they know there's somebody that's out there that cares for them, that wants them to be on the right path.
In 2018 and 2019, Sacramento saw 0 youth homicides. Not the case in the following 3 years. Youth leaders say to get back to 0 requires the kind of in-person engagement they couldn't do for much of the pandemic.
We are hopeful, and we know with the support that we are willing and ready to offer, not only mentoring but even employment, right? Placing them in spaces that are productive where they're learning trades, and so then the gang involvement automatically decreases.
A great city takes care of its children. I don't see these as expenses. These are investments in our future.
Chet Hewitt leads the Sierra Health Foundation and the Center at Sierra Health Foundation, which manages the Black Child Legacy Campaign. He says supporting youth services benefits everybody.
We provide these opportunities to young people because we know that long term, not only do they benefit themselves and their families, but they do benefit our region as well, economically, socially, and civically. So it's more than sports, it's more than games. It really is around young people and development.
Yeah, it's their lives. Becca's here with us now. Let's talk about Measure L. What would it do?
Yeah, and first of all, I do want to point out that I began speaking with these youth organizations well before Measure L was even placed on the ballot. So Measure L could benefit some of them, maybe not some others, but none of them are really taking a stance on Measure L. They were just showing us behind the curtain what goes on in these youth organizations. Okay. So I wanted to clarify that. That said, Measure L is something that is going to be on the ballot for Sacramento voters this year. A yes on L, Measure L, would amend the city charter to create and allocate funds for something called the Sacramento Children's Fund. It would also create a commission to provide some oversight for that money. Now, the money could only be spent on youth services. That includes after-school programs, mental health and wellness services, violence intervention, early childhood education, youth workforce development, and more.
So it's very focused on what it can be.
Yes, it can only, this money would be specifically earmarked for youth services. And of course, a no on Measure L would reject the proposal to create a Sacramento Children's Fund.
Isn't there already money going into youth programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Millions of it. The city council has allocated millions of dollars for youth programs here in the city of Sacramento. But both those for and against Measure L agree money should be spent for youth services. Those against Measure L say they don't think it needs to be done this way. They call this ballot box budgeting. They say earmarking money specifically for youth services, they worry would take away flexibility to spend that money on other things like public safety, homelessness, climate change. Those in favor of Measure L say more investment is needed in Sacramento's underserved youth. They point out Measure L is not a tax increase, and they say that specifically earmarking it would ensure that these youth programs get better funded. And we should point out that 40% of cannabis business operations tax is what would fund this fund. So we're looking at money that is tax revenue from cannabis businesses.
All right, Becca, thank you. And of course, we will continue to follow this. All right, of course, there's a lot more at stake for kids on the ballot this month, and you might have seen these ads on our channel. Take a look.
In short, 27 means getting people off the streets. California tribes overwhelmingly oppose Proposition 27.
So these are ads for and against Proposition 26 and 27. Prop 26 could legalize sports betting in tribal casinos. Prop 27 could legalize sports betting online. And these are said to be some of the most expensive ballot measures in state history. But why is that? Well, these propositions, which hope to legalize sports betting, are, of course, about business. Native American tribes are battling gambling companies for control over what could be yet another multi-billion-dollar industry. So back in 1987, a California tribe won a U.S. Supreme Court case that says if the state allows any sort of gambling, at the time it was bingo parlors, then tribes were allowed to have it on their land too. Other state propositions have allowed tribes to expand casinos, and California veteran journalist Dan Walters has reported on these efforts.
They made money and they built better facilities. Within a few years, we're kind of expanding the definition of the court's permission and started putting in a form of slot machine. State authorities said they were illegal, but they fought over it, continued to have the slot machines, and finally made enough money on the slots, financed some ballot measures in California that gave them a monopoly over almost full casino gambling in California.
Now, this Thursday, on To the Point, we're going to be taking a deeper look at these propositions and the arguments for and against them. ABC 10 political reporter Morgan Reiner will join us to break all of it down, and that's tomorrow right here on To the Point. Now, the midterms are only 4 weeks away, believe it or not, and I know that they are not as sexy as the presidential races, but there are a lot of important seats that are up for grabs, and we've got the top spots in the Capitol, city council, school board races, also state referendums. But I want to know, where do you stand this election cycle? Over the next few weeks, we're coming straight to you because we have a lot of questions. So we'll be at a few locations around town. Here's what we've got coming up this Friday and Saturday. Mark your calendars. We want to get you all the resources that you need to vote, and we want to know what matters to you most. What do you need to make this election process just a little bit easier for you? And if you can't attend, don't worry. You can always text us any questions you have at 916-321-3310, or you can always go to abc10.com/politics. All right, when we come back, we are taking a closer look at one of your questions. We'll hear from an expert about why California income taxes are going up for some of the state's wealthiest. Okay, over the weekend, a viewer reached out and asked us this. Is it true that California is raising the state income tax to 14.4%? And the answer is yes, for some high income earners. But here's why. So the raise is tied into SB 951. That bill allows some California workers to get 60 or even 70% of their income when taking time off. Most workers, we already pay into this portion of our paychecks into this fund, but now workers can get up to 90% of their income when they take time off because of a new child or even a sick family member. So there was a program that was already in place in the state. It is an extension of the state's disability insurance program. And Jeannie Kwong is a reporter from Cal Matters, a nonprofit California-based news source. And she said that the idea is that it'll make it more affordable for low-income workers to be able to take this leave. So here's her explanation of what this bill will change.
What it's resulted in is that lower income workers who are already, maybe living paycheck to paycheck aren't able to afford what amounts to a 30 to 40% pay cut in order to take that time off. And so even the state's own studies have shown that the rate of lower income workers who are taking this leave, taking advantage of this program had gone down, while other higher income earners had increased their usage of the program.
So the answer is yes. Californians making more than $145,000 will see an increase in their payroll taxes in order to fund a modified version of the state's family leave program. Now, these new wage replacement rates do go into effect in 2025. And as always, if you have a question, make sure that you just email me at tothepoint@abc10.com. All right, they say that everything is bigger in Texas and naturally everything is just more expensive in California. But is this true for retirement too? We're taking a look after the break. You've lived in California long enough to pay rent or even look at the sign in front of a gas station. It comes as no surprise that California is one of the most expensive states to live in. But what about for retirees? The trend is the same. According to a study by Bankrate, California comes in at third for the least desirable states to retire in, right after Alaska and Maine. The study accounted for features like affordability, well-being, weather, and crime rates. California ranked relatively high in all categories except for cost and crime. Tomorrow, the Social Security Administration is set to announce the COLA, or the cost of living adjustment, for next year. It's expected to be one of the largest increases in 40 years. A higher COLA will in turn raise Social Security payments to retired Americans, hoping to help them deal with the higher cost of living based on inflation. But that change is based on national averages and doesn't bring California's already high prices into the calculation. IRS data shows that of the people leaving California, those close to retirement age don't make up a large percentage. So even if California isn't the best state to retire in, most who are from here choose to stay. So we asked you, does your retirement plan include getting out of the Golden State? And boy, your responses did not disappoint. So here's Paul. He says, I'll be showing up to my last day of work in a U-Haul. I'll be out of California by Sunday. Paul, I can only imagine that you'll be driving east, so let us know where you land. All right, and then Geniola says that they were born and raised here, but that they plan to live out the rest of their days somewhere else, and we are sure you're not the only ones. All right, and while the cost of living isn't the only thing to consider when picking a place to retire, it is definitely one of the most important ones, and it was heavily weighted in that Bankrate study that we mentioned. All right, so we are rounding out Hispanic Heritage Month, and tonight we look at a hidden treasure of Hispanic culture in the city of Sacramento. Northgate and Gardenland is home to many Hispanic and Latino families, and now the hope is to make it a destination for visitors and locals. ABC 10's Van Tu tells us what's ahead for Northgate and Gardenland thanks to a new injection of investments.
Packed with flavor.
We cook everything fresh every day. Our flavor is just really something that's unmatched.
These family recipes passed down generations inspire Johnny Quintero.
Every day, that's a good reminder to focus on why you're doing it and why we work so hard. Nobody else is going to do the job for you, so you have to get it done yourself.
He says the success of Tacos La Piedad goes to his father, a Mexican immigrant who began serving tacos in his backyard before expanding to one of the first taco truck businesses in Sacramento. 3 generations have built it into a 30-year success.
It just inspires me so much because he came here with nothing, and he got the idea one day and just said, I can't be busting my back working for somebody else when I could do it myself, and I know I can cook delicious food, so that inspires me.
The business operates in this parking lot, one of the main focuses of a $5 million investment to transform Northgate Boulevard. This July, Sacramento City Council approved one-time funds to ensure public safety and attract customers to Northgate businesses, including traffic calming measures, new fencing, and a food truck plaza where La Piedad and others operate.
Well, I think this investment and then projects like this in the community is going to put a highlight on the area.
The busy corridor bisects Northgate and Gardenland, Sacramento communities with the highest concentration of Hispanic and Latino families. It's an area that's been in a cocoon, according to Marbella Sala of the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association.
Northgate Gardenland has been here for over 50 years. It's an old community. It's a hidden treasure, but because it's hidden, sometimes we get forgotten.
Once a rural, agriculturally driven community, its urban transformation began when homes were built in the area in the 1920s. Development stalled during the Great Depression due to lack of funding. Migrants settled in the area, and by the 1950s, Northgate Boulevard became the transportation route for McClellan Air Force Base. Supplies were often shipped by boat and docked off Garden Highway. Officials widened Northgate Boulevard to accommodate traffic. Today, it is still a speedway with several crashes every week. The lack of public safety and beautification investments in the area, Salas says, has been a continuing challenge she's witnessed in her 3 decades living here.
No, not much has changed.
Until recently. In addition to the $5 million earmarked for the neighborhood, this vibrant mural featuring local Aztec dancers, marigolds, and monarch butterflies marks what Sala believes will be the community's emergence from its cocoon into a destination.
It's kind of like an international food mecca on Northgate. People are getting to know that more, but we've all known about it.
The private-public partnership to improve the area, she hopes, will make Northgate Boulevard a destination.
I want color, I want vibrancy. If you see Northgate, it's kind of dull. And we're not a dull culture, and we're not a dull people.
And that mural is beautiful, and the food truck plaza is expected to be complete by the end of the year. All right, let's take a look outside and look at our forecast here. Not too bad. Still seeing some pretty warm temperatures. Wish it was cooling down closer to fall. Sacramento, not too bad. 77 down a little bit from yesterday. And then taking a look at your 10-day forecast. Finally tonight, some food for thought. According to data from the ACT, this year's average test score was at 19.8, and that's the lowest average test score since 1991. To make it even worse, 2 out of every 5 students that took the test did not meet any of the ACT's college readiness benchmarks. So in California, only 4% of graduating students took the ACT. The average score was 26.5, one of the highest in the country, and many California schools do not require standardized test scores, which is likely part of why so few signed up to take the ACT. Now, in terms of why scores are so low, you can definitely blame the pandemic for that. Many students who are graduating from high school have had a large section of the last 4 years interrupted by COVID-19, and then, of course, online schooling. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. Also, want to bring back on Mariah. Her mom, Sandra's watching, but we forgot to say hi to Dad last time. Hi, Dad. Hi, Michael. Michael Sr. All right, have a good night. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.